soon as possible. We heard, go to the tumor board in.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I got this feeling.
Hi, and welcome. We are Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul here on LA Talk Live. And my name is Del A.D. Jones. I'm a certified transformational life coach, and I specialize in the areas of personal growth, relationships, and divorce recovery. And next to me here is my wonderful co-host.
Thank you. I am Debbie Carlin Boyle, the other half of Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul. And I am a personal trainer, a certified fitness instructor, and a certified health and nutrition coach. And to introduce our show today, I think it's going to be best to start with a quote from Mother Teresa, actually. And the quote is, "Let no one ever come to you without leaving better and happier." So that quote comes from the website of our fabulous guest and her healing and harmony practice. And this is also is a message to others. Today, we'd like to welcome Claire Meyer, who is a devoted mother of 4 and a loving wife who gives so much of herself to others, which led to her book, Healing and Harmony, which we're going to discuss in detail today. So without further ado, could you please welcome my amazing friend, Claire Meyer. Thank you, Claire.
Hi, Claire. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think the timing of your appearance on our show is very appropriate, certainly for me. So I'm really looking forward to this hour with you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this for us.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have created something that I don't think the general population really knows about or would even think about when there's a crisis in a family and somebody gets ill. I don't think that there is enough awareness on how to handle them, the situation, the care, and to heal them and make them feel like your whole world turns upside down.
Exactly.
And you've created a way to help people get through these times, and that's what we're going to focus on today.
And also, exactly, not only is it about the patient, but the caregiver, how you can take care of yourself so that you're more able to step up and take care of those that are in need. So
we're going to start where we
exciting.
Usually like to start on our show. We like to get to know how the person got to the thing that they've created and made such a success at. So let's start from the beginning on where you were born.
Oh my goodness! Okay,
Yeah.
I was
that far back.
it was quite far back, but I was born in San Francisco, and my mother had a rooming house on Ashbury, 3 blocks from Haight, in the beatnik era, not the hippie era. And
Before that, yeah.
It was definitely, and it was a really fun and interesting place to live. Sometimes it was a little scary, depending on who lived there. Yeah. And I really learned to be really self-reliant. I was really on my own, but I had all these interesting people to look through the keyholes and to get to know, and it was a great place to live.
So were you an only child, and was she a single mother?
My mother is a single mother. My brother lived with us as well, and different relatives would come to live at different times in different rooms, and
Sounds
that
like my house.
I know you guys have such a similar story in
Isn't
2
that
different countries.
interesting?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So I think the first time I really began to be a caregiver was I was been thinking about this because I was coming here and I realized, my goodness, I was about 6 or 7 years old, and my aunt came to live on the 2nd floor of the rooming house, and she'd had a terrible car accident, and she wasn't able to walk. And I was thinking, how is she going to get to the communal meals? Because there were communal meals. It was a really interesting household.
Did your mom cook?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was very interesting. We had we had all kinds of political views in this household. So it was interesting dinners. But at any rate, my aunt was ill, and I thought I have to get meals to her, but I'm 6, and I'm thinking, okay, Jell-O. So I made her Jell-O, a lot of Jell-O, and with little cookies, so that I would take that up to her, and that was really, I saw it really made her happy, and that was the beginning of caregiving for me.
Wow.
Now, were you a caregiver to your mother? Because often what can happen certainly in a single parent household, sometimes the child can be parental with the adult.
I not at that time, but no, not at all. I really was just on my own. My brother and I were on our own. We would just take off and get on the bus and just go on adventures. We'd get on streetcars. I really was very independent.
At a very, very early age. Making Jell-O at 6, I would say, is very independent. You have to be able to
boil
boil a
water.
kettle.
But what
I
6-year-old?
had to boil water. That's what I'm
know.
thinking. I
Yeah.
was boiling water because I would
Oh.
make my own breakfast too.
Yeah.
Wow.
We didn't have a communal breakfast.
And you'd be hungry, a little
Well, I-
6-year-old
I
who
was-
needed
It's
to
so funny
eat.
that you say that. I think I was boiling a kettle at 4.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I was
these poor
making my own
things.
like little
I
milky
didn't-
bottles
Yeah,
with
so-
instant milk or baby food in a bottle.
Yeah, I
You
did
know,
not have that.
I found it really easy. I wasn't concerned about taking care of myself, or not at all.
It came natural to
Yeah,
you,
it was-
which is
We also had to boil kettles a lot for our hot water bottles, so we got very adept at handling hot
boiling
water.
water. so after the boarding house, what brought you? I know you made a move to LA.
My mother and I moved to Santa Monica, and my brother moved.
how old were you at that
I
point?
was about 10.
Okay.
10 or 11, and my brother moved with his father. We had different fathers. So my brother moved in with his father. My brother is about 6-7 years older than I. And so my mother and I moved to Santa Monica. And again, she really worked a lot. She was not around at all, hardly at all. And again, that just gave me the opportunity to be even more self-reliant. And I really saw that there were people that needed assistance, and being self-reliant was really easy for me. It was easy. So I started at that point. I just remember reaching out to friends that sort of felt like they needed a little help here and there. And it just came kind of naturally.
Very
Interesting.
cool. That's that, but that it was sort of innate to you. You were born with it. I think there is a nurture versus nature there a little bit, but I kind of feel like the nature is bigger than the nurture in this respect. Is that you were almost born with it, because at 6, I mean, yes, the first 6 of your years of your life, there was probably, I'm not going to say neglect, but there probably was a lot of having to be self-sufficient. So that, on top of what you were born with, just put you to where you are today. I can see that. And
I'm curious, did you ever feel a little abandoned, or were you completely fine with it?
Well, I think I look back on that child, and I think, gosh.
Well,
That's
I feel
what I was gonna
sad hearing
have
about that
compassion.
child. I feel sad hearing about that
I
child.
do.
But I'm
You
curious
know,
about
so-
you. Do you
You know,
do you have compassion to that child?
I
Yes.
have compassion for
Yeah.
that child. I feel like I would not have, that's not how I would treat my own children.
Yeah.
However, it really, it's those bittersweet things that
Yes.
occur in your life, those challenges that are opportunities to grow. And I
Absolutely.
swear, I look back on it, and would I change anything? No.
Well, no, I know. The same thing as for me as a life coach. I mean, I went through I call it a very colorful childhood. Sometimes call it running with scissors on steroids. But I don't regret a single thing. It's all helped me get where I am today. It helps me work with my clients. There's nothing that I can hear from somebody that would either shock me or throw me over the edge. I mean, it's like been there, done that, understand. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful when you come through the other end and you can look back. You can have compassion for that younger you, but you can also see the blessings and the gifts and everything you went through, and how you can pay it forward, which you clearly have done.
And you're one of the most loving people that I know, because I have the benefit of knowing you very well.
Thank you.
We actually have the benefit of sharing kids that live together. But that's a whole other story. And I've known Claire for a really long time, and you're the most loving, giving person that I pretty much know.
Oh, well,
and that, just says volumes about, and it's so, and thank you for sharing in a book and a website what you know to others and how others can help, because not everybody, this is not a natural thing for people to come. I'm going to show this book. This book, Healing in Harmony, right here. We're going to talk about this in depth.
It's a difficult subject, and what I found is that people really don't want to talk about it. They don't want to call me or talk to me until they are in a crisis. And when you're in a crisis, as you said, your world goes upside down. Our world went upside down when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and friends and family. You go in a tailspin, and that's the time to have a little assistance, and most people don't want to know about it beforehand, and I get that. I really get that.
Yeah, they don't want to put the energy there. They don't want to sort of, imagine that could happen. They want to stay blissfully ignorant, and then all of a sudden
it happens.
Smacks you.
It's the same kind of premise when you think about somebody writing a will and putting, getting a power of attorney done. And we went through such a nightmare on my mother's estate because she never wanted to go there and never did, and so it put us all into a tailspin. And it's the same kind of thing.
It is, and when I wrote this little book, and I call it a book, it's a booklet. It's very small, but I did that for a reason.
Very
because
potent.
I didn't want to make it long, because I remember when Bill was diagnosed, some really wonderful, well-meaning people gave us books that were too big for me to read at the time. They were, and not only that, I didn't think they pertained to us. I thought, this is too scary. I can't deal with this.
Too much.
And so when I wrote, as it originated, it was a Christmas letter I sent out after my husband was in recovery. When I wrote the book, I thought, I don't want to tell you why I'm writing each one of these things down that I think are important. I didn't tell the story behind each issue or point. I just felt like, let's make it really simple, something that people can digest quickly, because you need something quickly.
Yes.
Can I just, talking about that, can you just give us a little example for our listeners that might not understand what you were saying? So when the book, I love your intention. I love your intention to just not overwhelm somebody, but to really be concise, easily digestible, yet at the same time so compassionate with the story, so that people can understand. So do you want to maybe just share one of those?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll just tell you about when my husband was first diagnosed, I learned something very quickly that day, and I noticed that when I wasn't worried at all. My husband went in to have a little lump removed in his neck, and I brought all my paperwork with me, and I'm just reading and not thinking about it. But what I did notice is that when the doctors came out, they would talk to the people in the waiting room, and when there was a problem, the doctors would take them into another room. And the doctor came out to me and he said, "Can I talk to you for a moment in the other room?" And I just thought, I just was like, oh God, what happened? And I found out that he had cancer. And what I learned at that moment is, I don't care what kind of procedure you're having, have someone on call, someone you can. I got on the phone while he was in recovery, trying to find a friend to talk to. I just couldn't reach anybody.
Oh, really?
No one was home, and I learned at that moment to have someone with you. It's so important. It is so important, and that was right there at the beginning, how to care for the caregiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was
Right
just going
there.
to say, because we do situations like that, exactly, caregivers especially, that you have this sort of like, you feel there's this unlimited resource within you, and you go in there to support the other person. And then, like you said, all of a sudden you're in the position where you need support.
It was startling.
Yeah, that wouldn't occur to a lot of people. I love that. That's incredible
Yes.
insight.
And it isn't just some, we thought this was something simple. So I'm just saying it doesn't have to be something major.
Yeah.
You
No.
just have
Yeah.
someone there with you.
Yes.
And
Either way, the
Yeah.
news itself
Yeah.
is so powerful, and so because you don't know what it's the unknown. You are completely dealing with the unknown. So you think the worst and hope for the best, and you don't, and yet it may not be the worst. But either way, you don't know
It's
yet.
just a
So
shock. It's
It's
a
a
huge
shock.
shock.
It's
You're
a
in shock.
You're
Yeah.
in shock. I
Yeah.
was in shock. And so what we did at that point is we decided, let's gather as much information as possible. We heard, go to the tumor board in Stanford. We went to the tumor board in Stanford, and there are 7 doctors on the board. And I learned something again. And that is they had all the information, and one doctor looked at it, and they all looked at the same information. So I'm thinking I'm getting 7 different opinions. I was not. We were not getting 7 different opinions. They told my husband, go home, put your affairs in order. You have stage 4 cancer. You don't have long to live. And I want to tell you right now, my husband is alive and well and flourishing.
And
So-
it's been 20 years.
And it's been
Wow.
20 years.
That's
So,
incredible.
But
no part thanks
what
to you.
what I learned then is 2 or 3 opinions at least. I believe in 3 opinions, and we went back home, rolled up our sleeves, and we found a doctor that I think you need an extraordinary technician, but you need an extraordinary human being who believes in you.
gonna say,
And
it's
I think
more
that's
about the power of
it's so
belief
important.
I think
that
it's
you're
even
gonna
more
do.
important than being than the qualifications.
Yes.
I believe you need both.
Yeah.
And by having faith in that they're technically strong and good,
yes.
then and that they're a good human being and believe in you and believe
Yes.
in that you can get well. And we found that doctor, and so there I learned 3rd opinions.
What we're going to do, I want to go through everything,
Okay.
but I want to go back to you touched on it briefly, how a Christmas letter prompted you to write the book when Bill was going through this. What was the content of that Christmas letter?
Well,
you don't have to be specific.
That's okay.
But
It was
yeah.
after he was in recovery. I guess it took him about 2 years to really get back on his feet. I mean, he weighed 200 pounds to begin with and dropped down to 129. So he was gravely ill.
Yeah.
But so he's in recovery, doing well, and I thought I want to write some of these things down that we did that seemed to affect the care that he was getting in the hospital. And so I wrote the book. It's essential tips on how to maneuver through the medical community, dealing with the basic, really important things that are just medical.
But you wrote the book after the Christmas letter.
Right. But so what I did is that I put everything down in the Christmas letter. Well, I put not everything, but I put a lot of things down in the Christmas letter. And then what happened for the next couple of years is people would ring me up and think, remember that Christmas letter that you wrote?
Okay. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. So that's how it all tied together. So
People, the need.
They just kept. I kept printing up more and more and more and more, and then I kept adding to it because there still were things that I was learning, and as I was learning from the people that were contacting me, I found that I began assisting people in hospitals and with whatever I could do, and I saw the benefit of it. And each time I learned something more, so I kept adding to the Christmas list that eventually I thought, I think I'm going to put this down in a very small little format.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Simple. So
and
when you
direct.
hand a book like this to somebody who's
Yes.
going through it, they can take the time in a matter of 45 minutes and get through this, and it just will make so much sense to them, and how to handle each and every step. I love this book because you go into the detail on each process, both from the logistics bullet points, but also from the spiritual and technical, from the spiritual end of it, and how our part has family members and people who love and care about the person going through it have to be handled and have to handle it and handle them and handle the staff. I mean, you just have done a brilliant thing with this book.
Thank you.
And also, I think a lot of people feel that it's one or the other. They either have to go through the Western medical route or the holistic route. And my perspective has always been a complete combination of both, and I think that's what this book speaks to, is that that you put your trust in the medical community, but you also do your part. It's you don't abdicate responsibility.
No,
It's a partnership.
So many people do.
What we felt and what I've said for years is that it was a handshake, a beautiful handshake. We did very aggressive traditional medicine, and then we also did alternative with, we did really some interesting alternative, actually.
Yeah, well, I'd like to hear
And
about
you're not
that.
quite sure. Yeah, we should dig into that because you're not sure. It was probably the combination, but you're not sure what got him to wear it.
What were
20 years
some of the
lesser
most
fruit,
unconventional things you did?
It was really funny because my husband was so not into any of this. He was. We actually, one of our big fights when he was first diagnosed, he was having one of our sons sneak in Diet Pepsi or Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Oh, I was so mad at him. But anyway,
mad at him, your son,
I was
Bill.
mad at Bill.
Yeah, because your son was just doing
Oh
what his
yeah,
dad was asking him to do.
exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, the children were all, they were from 5 to 22. They were all, their world was frightening. But
absolutely.
at any rate, but I kind of lost my point. But
You're talking about some of the
holistic,
some of the more
alternative.
Yeah. So I had heard about this woman who was a holistic healer, and I said, Bill, please, can she come? Oh my goodness. He was like, I just think that's ridiculous. And anyway, so Anissa came, and she taught him about visualizing, and it was so extraordinary and so wonderful the way she spoke to him. And after she left, he said, "When is she coming back?"
Oh, how powerful is that?
So it was really good for him, and it came from somebody other than me.
Yeah.
Which was really
Which
good.
is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Because
So,
he'll be like, okay, enough
Right.
with you. But
Yeah.
then you bring in a
So,
third party.
and then we went to, and believe me, I'm not advocating this at all, but we went to somebody we called Voodoo Bob. And we also went to.
I want to hear about Voodoo Bob
Bob.
first.
Yeah. No, we'll go through the list.
It was
Yeah.
getting, and they do. It was in a tank where it's oxygenating your body, which
I
is
love
totally fine now. But this was in his backyard in Canoga Park, and so it was very weird.
You know what? I've had that done. It's incredible.
Okay, well, Bill did that as well. We had shark cartilage flown in from Alaska. We had an herbalist who we were working. But let me just tell you that the traditional doctor that we chose, worked hand in hand with the herbalist and the other people we were working with.
That is so important.
It's miraculous.
That really is, because often you find, like I bought this, my sister is battling cancer right now, and I bought this thing called the Beamer, which was supposed to be really beneficial for people healing from cancer, and it has all
it's also
this
preventative.
data.
It's a mat that you lay on that helps rejuvenate cellular.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Well, I bought this with the specific intention of taking it back to England for her to use as part of her healing from her 13-and-a-half-hour operation. And the doctors there were just absolutely no way. And even though there was so much literature and they could have looked into it and everything, they just were just not interested. They were like, no, if you do that, then you don't continue with us. And it was hard. It was hard because I really had hoped there would be that, as you said, that, respect for each way of coming at this and doing it together and having it be, a joint effort.
Like harmonious.
Between,
exactly. Which is what you sought out and
that's
found.
Wonderful to know that the Western doctor was open to, the Voodoo Bob and whoever else.
Because you have to do that.
Yes.
So do you find, you have a lot of sisters, and so do you find that, is it frustrating for you not to be able to give your sort of 2 cents about having sort of another
No, I'm very, very. Even though I'm a coach, it's quite funny. I'm very hands off. I'm very respectful of boundaries, and each person's journey is their journey. And I will be there and I will offer. But if for any reason I hear no, I'm like completely back off.
Okay.
It warms my heart to hear that there are doctors out there that are prepared to do both, because I also know it can be the other way. You can be a holistic doctor that will just say, the second you do anything that involves Western medicine, I don't want anything to do with it, and it just feels like all or nothing to me.
We heard that.
Yeah,
we heard that as
should.
well.
They
We
should
did. We definitely
really
heard that.
come together. When I my pregnancies, I was hell bent. I did the Bradley method of childbirth, and I was hell bent. You did, of course, and I was. Why did I not just know that? And it was hard to find a doctor, but still be in the medical situation. I didn't want to do it at home, high up in the mountains in Malibu. I wanted to be in a place where if something did go wrong, I would have that benefit. But back when I was having kids, some of the first hospital I chose, and even though my doctor said yes, absolutely 100%, no intervention. We will, until you're ripe, we're not going to go in, blah, blah, blah. We'll let you do this naturally. As soon as I got in the hospital, their protocol was 150% different. And I had to get my doctor to come in, even though I wasn't dilated enough to have birth, to make them take me off the machines, allow me to walk the hall so my feet weren't up in the air, stopping the gravity of the baby coming down. And because I had a really strong education in childbirth at that point, and I did not want the intervention in that respect. I just wanted to be there for the just in case part.
Yes, exactly.
And I didn't go back to that hospital for my second child.
I had exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
I got in there. They did the same thing. The nurse, she was like, "What are you doing in here? Why did you even bother coming into a hospital?" And I was like, in the midst of giving birth, the turnaround for me to be in and out of that hospital was 6 hours.
Me too.
Because mine was at Cedars.
Mine too.
we had the same nurse.
But she was such a bitch.
Really. I was like, they even said to me, they said, "Oh, this baby's so ugly. It's covered in white stuff. Let's scrub the baby and he'll be much prettier."
Baby ugly when it first comes out.
Because I wouldn't let them have them. I have my baby. I was like, he can warm up. They said, "Let's put him under light." I'm like, it's my body. He's going to warm up with my body.
Yeah, which is part of the Bradley.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna rub the nice waxy stuff in him. You don't have to scrub it off him. It was they were so happy to see the back of me.
And that's the thing. It's it's what we're talking about. You're
what
dealing
you're up
with
against.
what you want, what you naturally want to do and know is right against the medical situation, and to find that merge where you can find the people, the right people that will work together for the better of the patient and the outcome of that, instead of letting egos get in the way and protocol get in the way and even their education get in the way. I feel is so miraculous that you were able to create that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what we found actually at UCLA when my husband was there for one of his surgeries, is that I liked what I call creating a healing and harmony environment. It was really, I started doing it for myself. I knew I was just going to be in the hospital, and I knew that I wanted to create for Bill and myself sort of a homey kind of feeling. And so I put medical supplies in baskets. I brought in a throw pillow or two. I brought in a pretty blanket, and I played really beautiful, beautiful music, and I did aromatherapy, and I would read to Bill out loud.
Wow. This is great. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a very quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to go through everything you did and why, how you did it and how it, how it manifested in itself, the way you've organized the book, if that's okay, because I think it will help our listeners a lot.
To empower those caregivers out there to just not feel like you don't have a say in the matter. So yes, join us. We are only gone for 2 minutes, and we'll be back.
And you could go to our Facebook page, make a comment, write a question, Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, and Soul, right on Facebook.
Okay.
We'll be right back in 2.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and hosts of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Lady Jones, and I'm a certified relationship and divorce coach.
And I'm Debi Carlin Boyle, a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor, and health coach.
Join us on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, for Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between, exclusively on LA Talk Live.
Become part of the conversation with expert guests discussing life-changing topics such as relationships, divorce, longevity, parenting challenges, dating, intimacy, and so much more.
We would love to hear your opinions and questions, either on our Facebook page or by calling us directly at 323-473-3100. We are Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, and now live on Facebook, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. And now on our YouTube channel, Del and Debbie Mind, Body, Soul. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Welcome back. We're Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, and Soul, and everything in between. And today we're talking with Claire Meyer. She's the author of a book called Healing in Harmony. And basically, it's essential tips on how to maneuver and get through with the medical community when somebody in your life is going through a medical condition, a medical situation. And the book breaks down in such beautiful ways. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go through sort of the bullet points of the book to help our listeners understand the process. You know, we talked a little bit about what brought you to do this in the first place when your husband Bill was so sick. But if we could go through and talk about each one of the points, it would be really great. Starting with the empowered patient, going from there, from that angle.
Well, it's really important to be an empowered patient, absolutely, and it's equally as important to have an advocate, a caregiver, to be with you at all times when you're going to doctor appointments, when you're writing everything down. I kept a notebook, and I keep notebooks for other people. I've done it, and you'd be surprised the mistakes that are made and the things that are forgotten.
And also, I want to go back to one of the first things.
Yes,
I know a lot. I mean, I can speak for myself, and I know a lot of people, they don't want to offend the doctor. And when you said you'd like three opinions,
yes,
often people don't want to go for that second or even third opinion because they don't want to suggest to the doctor that they don't believe them or don't trust them. So they just stay quiet. And that's, again, you've just immediately handed over your power.
Absolutely. You've got to be empowered. You have to ask questions. Continue to ask questions until you understand. I mean, there's so many points of just... you own your own imaging, for one thing, and doctors will tell you, no, you can't have those.
I remember when you told me that. Yeah. I remember you told me that a long time ago.
You've paid for them, you own them, and you put them where you feel that they are the safest, and that could be a small lab. I wouldn't leave imaging that Bill had at UCLA, and I waited one night, and I got Bill home, got him settled with someone, and I went back to UCLA and waited till 11:30 at night, and they finally handed it to me.
Now, also, just on that subject, because I know it's very important, is how you, just this one thing here where you want another opinion, because I know you have a wonderful way of respectfully asking for what you want that doesn't basically get the backup of the doctor. So if we can just give our listeners a tip on that, on how you might say to somebody, I respect what you're saying, but I need another opinion.
I never really told another doctor I was getting another opinion.
Oh,
I
you
just
didn't?
went
Okay.
and got more opinions.
Okay,
Did they ever
great.
suggest? I know sometimes doctors go, you're welcome to go get another opinion.
They'll say
that.
I have heard that. But really, for us, it was after the tumor board, after the 7 doctors, we just went and got more opinions.
Okay.
And
so you didn't commit to a
No.
protocol of treatment.
No,
You decided
but
to educate yourself first.
you have to not be intimidated by doctors, and
Yes.
doctors can be intimidating.
Very
Absolutely.
much so.
So,
Very much.
yeah.
And even when they don't intend to be, we just
Right.
become children. We
And
just hand over our power.
The other thing to know is that you're not a statistic. There's always hope. There always, and you just don't put limitations on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's so
Because
individual.
when
Yeah.
the doctors told my husband, go home, put your affairs in order, you're not going to make it. Well, gosh.
that's just
You know,
putting
that's
him in a box, in
that
a
is-
category with
that's
the other people.
Statistic, we
Yeah.
and of course it's important to gather information, and then you roll up your sleeves and decide what path you want to go on.
That's so interesting. We did that with my sister. I mean, people say to me constantly, well, we know what cancer she has. She has pancreatic cancer. But people say to me immediately, what's the prognosis? What stage was she at? And we didn't want to know. We didn't want somebody saying anything,
Because
any
that just
limitations.
categorizes
I was
you.
so
No, you're not a
careful.
category.
Yeah.
I was so careful who came in contact with us. I needed to keep our world small, and just I didn't want negativity
Yeah.
around us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I stopped telling people because it was breaking my heart. Or people just kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh my God, that's what," and I just, it was enough. I just thought, you know what, I don't want to hear those stories. If you've got a positive story to share with me, that's great. I'm willing to listen to that, but I don't want to hear the other ones. I just don't. And I think that's I'll just put that out there too. I think it's very respectful when somebody is going through, when their loved one is going through something challenging. I don't think it's necessary to share with that person that you know somebody that had that and died from it. I just don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
Gosh, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So
You know,
anybody out there, just please don't offer that up
Yeah.
because it is not helpful.
I learned something from someone also while my husband was ill, and I have it in the book, and I'm grateful that I learned this lesson. She came up to me, she heard my husband was ill, and she goes, "Honey, I hear your hubby's under the weather." And I remember thinking, I'm in
Under the weather.
he's living hour to hour. We're living hour to hour in our home, and I was stunned by it. And then
Yeah. I think
about 3 years later, I
Okay.
ran into this woman at a party, and she comes up to me. She says, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Certainly." She goes, "Forgive me, forgive me. I didn't understand about this health challenge and it's just my sister's been ill, and I've had to learn to be a caregiver, and I've learned and I see what was going on." She says, "Forgive me." And I thought a lot about that, so I wrote in the book, forgive those who can't be with you. They
Yes.
don't know. Please
That's right, I
forgive
was
them,
gonna
and
say.
you'll be so surprised at who will be there for you.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
funny
that's
because you
beautiful.
never
You
know.
Oh.
And people very often, I know my brother, when anybody in my family got sick, he ran for the hills, because he didn't know how to handle it. He could never go near a hospital. He couldn't be in the hospital, couldn't deal with any of that situation. And then I have another sibling who couldn't stay away, so you just don't know how people individually are going to handle
Exactly,
it,
exactly.
And a lot of times, as for us, friends get ill, and or our family gets, we don't know where's
You
the
don't know
right
what to
and where's
say.
the wrong.
I know, it's so true. We
You
had
know?
somebody knock on our door, and she'll walk in in the middle of Bill being so ill, come in with, "Hi, we brought you margaritas," and it's like, I thank you, but not right now.
I know.
But but she didn't
but she
know what
meant
to
well.
do. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah.
There'll be people that will
Yeah.
bring you comfort, and there'll be people that want to, but they
Yeah.
don't know how, and they'll be
Exactly.
quiet. They won't say anything, won't send the card, and then they feel bad, and forgive them. forgive them.
Because that's who they are. And that's, they don't know how to handle.
Because they haven't learned. And
Yeah.
bless their hearts that they haven't had to learn
No,
that
right,
lesson.
right. You learned that's what brought you here.
Yeah,
You learned it very
Again,
early
just
on.
for anybody that is listening, and I don't normally dispense advice, but I think the advice is to really, it's not to minimize and not to dramatize. And the other thing is to just ask, what do you need? What can I do to help? How can I help you? Just be there for that person and let them tell you how they want you to behave.
Yeah,
For you to try and figure it out yourself can sometimes be just not the right thing to do.
There's also really practical ways to maneuver through the community, the medical community. And as I mentioned, your all your lab work, all of those things, keep track of them. Keep them in a notebook. Ask for copies of every scan, every lab, blood work, anything that's done. And then also, if you're at a doctor's appointment, make sure that the doctors will say, next time I think we're going to run this test. Well, I've been at doctor's appointments where they've forgotten that. And I say, well, you remember last time you said, well, I think we were going to run a test this time. It goes, that's right. And it's things like that. Even in the hospital.
What I'm thinking is we all have these, we all have our smartphones now. Could you even just record the doctor's meeting so you have on record what was said?
That would just be a great thing to do. I mean, but I sit at meetings and doctor's appointments still to this day that go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I don't do that, but somebody else might want to do that. And I take notes. I just write as quickly as I can, because in the hospital too, I've been sitting in the hospital with different patients, and I'll note that meds were given at a certain time, and someone will come in and start to give the meds again.
I've seen that over and over again.
And and we have to be careful, but be forgiving and not be argumentative about it. And one of the things I learned early on when I used to take care of my grandmother and my aunt, my mother used to come in and raise hell in the hospitals. It was so horrifying. She'd get everybody so mad, and then she'd fly out and leave. And then I'd be there trying to disarm everyone and bring them back into care about my aunt or care about my grandma. They're wonderful. Don't cause trouble.
Talk about those
it's really
steps.
important.
We should really talk
you have
about
a really
that.
great way of humanizing.
Humanizing is vital. And one of the things that I did with Bill and I've just done with my family when they've been meeting a health challenge in the hospital in particular is humanize. And Bill could be on a gurney and they're wheeling him to surgery, and I'm telling everybody, I don't care who's wheeling him down, this is the greatest man in the world. He's a wonderful father. I am so lucky. He's such a wonderful husband. And I just told, it didn't matter if the people were emptying the trash in the room. I wanted everyone invested in his recovery.
Yeah. I want to add something to that too, because my mother is, bless her, is 90 years old, and she has some health issues, and she's going to the doctors all the time. And there was one doctor, she loves to share the story, who she just felt she couldn't get through to. She was just a number to him, and she was seeing him constantly. And she said, one day I'm sitting there, she said, I just couldn't resist telling him that I just loved his curly hair.
Perfect.
And where perfect.
Perfect.
And so all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, where did you get that curly hair from? It's gorgeous. And he was so taken aback, she says, and he immediately started sharing it with her. Well, it was, I got it from my mother, and she really loved that I had curly hair, and she used to do my hair and even put me in a dress when I was little.
Perfect.
And so she humanized him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just the patient that
exactly.
you need it's the other way around.
True.
It works both ways.
So there's a relationship then.
One of the things that I say is be kind to everyone and disarm those who are cranky or distant. And I did the exact same thing, and I do it to this day. I do it in all kinds of situations because it makes an enormous difference. It's like takes people's armor down.
Totally.
It's such a beautiful thing to behold.
Right.
And if you ask about their life too, they're going to be more interested in your life.
Yeah.
It's just
it's the same thing that a salesperson does basically when you walk into a store and they compliment you on your hair, or your dress, or your shoes.
I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like that one doesn't work for me.
But you know what I mean? mean, now it's become, but that's the
I just
point
see them all
behind-
gathered for their sales
that's
meeting.
the point behind it, which
Yeah.
is the same point that we're making, is that everybody's human.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be treated with love and kindness.
Exactly.
And when they're coming in and they're just working like robots, just doing the job and thinking of you as a number, everybody on the other end knows that and feels that, and that's not going to help to heal somebody. And then, so that's where this whole
one of those
thing
components.
came in.
I mean, it's one
I
of the
know.
components. It's really mind, body, and soul. It
Yeah.
really is. It's all encompassing.
Let's
And
talk
I'm not
about
sure,
Go
the
ahead.
room. I was going to say because
Yeah, I was
okay,
just going
I
to say
started
that.
talking
I
about
just
that.
want to
Yeah.
talk about the room and
Yeah.
what you did to create the environment.
Yeah.
Well, again, I just music and.
So you
The
brought in
baskets
music.
and some throw pillows and a blanket and
Aromatherapy oils.
yes, and photographs of the family, photographs
That humanizes
and
him with
exactly,
everybody walking
and knowing
in.
that he's cared about, and it made an enormous difference in that what happened was is that at UCLA during the rounds. They'd all come around and then they'd leave and then they'd come back later. What are you doing in here? It feels so good. We want to be in here.
Yeah, of course.
We
I mean,
want
So they'll
to
come
be
in and
here.
check in on
And
this
they would
patient
come-
more
they said,
often.
Would you mind if I come and just take my break in here? And they were just quiet.
yeah.
And it was so surprising to me, but I saw the benefit
Yeah.
of what it did. It was
Love
really
and
it
Because
was
they
lovely.
don't want to work in that horrible,
No.
sterile, cold environment
Yeah.
either.
That's what makes
I
them act
did-
like robots,
Yeah.
practically.
When I was in hospital, I had a couple of times I was in there for a week. I had 2 like emergency surgeries, and what I also noticed was when somebody bought you flowers. I would give, if I had 2 flowers, I'd give one to the nurses so that to put it in their nurses' station. And they would individually all come in and so even like when the shift changed, they go, "Oh, we heard that you gave us some of the flowers. They're beautiful. Thank you so
Isn't
much."
that so nice?
It
Humanizing
really made
it.
a huge
That's
difference.
love and kindness.
Yeah.
I love that what you do with the IV pole. You
Oh,
put
that's
ivy on. You wrapped ivy around the pole.
That's right. That's right. I do. The idea is to be in gratitude for nature as well as technology. I don't know. There
They
was just
should.
something about that merging.
Merging.
And so also when you look at an IV pole, usually it's like, I can hardly wait to get this thing out of my arm.
Yes.
And I thought, well, let's think about it in a different way. Let's think about, I am so grateful for what's going through
Absolutely.
me to get me well. And I'm reminded of that by the IV pole. It was kind of funny, but it was sort of sweet. And
Was it
people
so?
liked
You'd
it.
bring in fresh ivy and
No,
just go
no,
in?
I went.
No.
I went to Michael's and I got
Right,
ivy that
ivy.
looked like
Yeah,
fake
looked
ivy, and
yeah. And rolled it.
I didn't do
And
that.
that right
so
away will
cute.
spur anybody who walks in that room because that's not a photograph for flowers.
Yeah.
That's very unusual. And
That is
that
funny.
That's
when we were at UCLA talking about attitude and a presence in a room, there were 2 women there, and when Bill was there actually, and they had the exact same thing. I mean, exactly. And one was younger and one was older, and the younger one was the most negative human on the face of the earth because the nurses all told me that. And the other woman was positive and had a good attitude. They enjoyed working with her. And I'm sorry to say the younger one passed away and the older one survived. But I always thought about that. I thought a lot about that when I was writing the Christmas letter, and it's a story I have never actually told before, but I thought about it. I thought, boy, here's a woman who undoubtedly wanted to live and be well, but she repelled the people who were there that wanted to. That were
take care
caring
of
for her. She was negative, and she had lost hope. And here's another woman who older had hope, and embraced the people who were there to care for her. I'm not saying she passed away because of that, but I just thought that
But it's
it was a
very
lesson.
powerful.
There was a lesson there
Yes.
for me to learn. And
It wasn't that she was getting, what's the word I'm trying to find? Inferior
care or
care.
anything.
Yeah.
No,
It was
no.
really about the attitude.
attitude.
it-
And
it-
it's the
yeah.
power of
Yeah.
positive thinking in
So-
any realm
And love.
to
And
create.
I was sharing with you earlier that
Yeah.
my somebody I know always says the the two components for healing are love and laughter, and to just and I think it's so
And
true.
Spread it.
Yep.
Just spread
Yep.
it. You
There was
know?
the
Joy,
old book,
laughter.
that old book by Norman Cousins about laughter and illness, and I can't recall the name of it, but I love that book.
Well,
it's
and you
true.
talk about it, about what you watch, the TV you
Oh, my
watch.
gosh.
Yes, talk
Yeah.
about
Well,
watching something that is uplifting.
It's true.
and-
I had a friend, a really, really close friend. I have a friend who's, and he had cancer, and his parents came to take care of him, and it was during the OJ trial,
dear.
and they were listening to the OJ
Ay, ay,
trial
ay.
constantly,
Wow.
and I would manage to sort of slip in there. Maybe we could just change the channel, and I took him out actually, and we went to a comedy, a movie, and we did, and we really talked about it, and he got them to turn the OJ
Yeah.
trial off. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it seems so negative.
Yeah, but like you say, just put a comedy on, laugh. I mean, just the
we
joy
did
of life.
so much of that. We listened to we listened to old Johnny Carson shows, and that was really, we would laugh so hard. We just and Bill had he always had a IV, or he had an IV pole. He had it at home, and and he would wheel it in, and we'd watch old Johnny Carson.
Smart.
Oh,
Really
laugh.
good
That's
stuff.
wonderful.
Really good stuff.
Yes.
And then we also let's see, we talked about the environment, honoring the power of the spirit. You have a whole section on that in your book, and we're talking about the which we've touched on a little bit here.
The woman that came to our home, Anissa, and she was teaching Bill about the power of visualization, and what he did is he visualized himself with our children at different times in their life, at marriages, at graduations from high school, different things, picturing us walking
in the future.
In the future,
exactly.
So he was all visualizing what he'd like to do in the future, and I think he was so amazingly brave, and
it's a form of meditation, and it probably helped with any pain that he may have been going through too.
Living visions. It's like put yourself 10 years ahead and see yourself in that situation. Describe every detail. Smell the smell. If you're on a walk with your family or something, smell the flowers. I mean, really create and see yourself there. It's such a powerful.
I bet.
Yeah.
Would that work with your sister, or would that be overstepping?
No, I would definitely suggest these things to her. She's not as, I think we're much more open to that over here. I mean, my sister tends to be a little bit more sort of very British and matter of fact, and but who knows? I'll be back there in a few weeks, and we'll see again.
Let's get the feel for it.
But even visualizing, also, I know that there are certain patients that will visualize almost like a little Pac-Man.
That's what Bill did.
Away
He
at
did.
the cancer cells.
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. He did. He visualized that, and he worked very, very hard to get well.
Well, clearly it worked. 20 years after a stage 4 diagnosis.
I know.
That is miraculous, and it's wonderful, and it's very hopeful for a lot of people.
I used to drive him down to sit on the beach, so you sit as close as he could to the foam of the ocean, because it's the oxygen
ions,
and the oxygen level is so wonderful and so healing.
Negative ions.
Yeah,
Which is good. And even walking on the beach,
Yes.
letting your feet, letting the touch of it come through to your body.
He would walk with our daughter, and it's interesting because our daughter now, she's a recognized artist, and what she does is she does work that is a combination of adding technology with nature in her work, and that's what it's derived from.
Yeah. Wow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, how
Her
old was she
childhood.
when
She was 5.
she was the
She's young.
5-year-old?
Yes,
Wow.
yes, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, very talented daughter, may I
Yes, I'm
say.
sure.
May
Yeah.
I say. And you guys have enjoyed many wonderful things that you guys have enjoyed
We
together
have.
over these last 20 years with Bill.
Fortunate.
And it's so, with Healing in Harmony, there's just so many things in here. I feel like that that anybody who's going through a crisis or in the hospital or going through disease could touch on. We've touched on the music, the environment, pictures and photos. design. So you go in and you talked about the pillows and the...
I think that, yes, we talked about that, but there's one thing I think that's really important that I'd really like to share. And that when someone's challenged with an illness, and a serious illness, and they begin to lose weight, and they have an issue with their weight, the one thing I have found over the years that has worked so beautifully for so many is, it's really simple. Adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil, flaxseed oil, Udo's oil, one of the good oils, to every meal. I actually got billed to gain 5 pounds in 1 week. Wow. and he wasn't able to swallow whole food. He still is not able to swallow whole food, but he's on a blended diet to this day. But it's amazing what it can do when they get thin and they need to gain weight. I just can't say this enough. I tell people so often about this, and it's like a little secret, but it works so beautifully.
And it's not a harmful way to gain weight.
You can put it in an applesauce. You can put it in a milkshake. You can put it and you don't even taste it.
Yeah.
You don't even taste it. And
in fact, it makes food taste nicer.
It's
good
just
oil and it's good fats that our bodies need.
It's just so, I really think that's something really important for anyone who is facing a health challenge.
Lots of avocados as well.
Yes. And do you know that Bill gets an avocado almost every day?
Oh, good.
I'm always, it's calories. I'm always trying to get calories in.
Good calories.
But those avocados have so many properties that our bodies need, and it's good. I eat a half an avocado every day.
Well, it's so good for your skin. It's really good.
Yeah. When people ask me that in my practice, I say, learn to like avocados if you can. Bring them in.
We've talked a lot about, the caregiver, how to help facilitate, a more, as pleasant an experience as possible in the hospital with the environment, how you deal with the doctors and the partnership and advocating for yourself. So what about the caregiver now? What can a caregiver do so that you maintain your strength, your optimism? Because it's so easy to get worn down. Because often, I've noticed too, often patients, there's clearly it's a very upsetting situation, and sometimes they take their frustration and hurt and upset on the person that's closest to them. So can you give our listeners any tips on how to not take it personally and how to really...
I'm work in progress about being a caregiver. I've been a caregiver nonstop, basically. I mean, really.
It can get tiring,
and
exhausting.
and so I mean, it really is important to take care of yourself. And I'm as I'm getting older, I'm thinking that I need to take even better care of myself because I get a little tired.
Of course,
I do, and so I'm really doing little things to help myself. Massage, just some time to myself. I mean, my husband is very independent, but does he have issues to this day? Certainly, he does. And he needs some assistance with those issues. And what I found for myself, and I would encourage others, is don't spread yourself too thin. I mean, if you happen to be a people pleaser type, and you want and you see there's a need, I've lately had to pull back, and I heard a saying that I think you shared with Debbie the other day, and it's when people pleasers stop pleasing, people are not pleased, and I have some people who are not really pleased with me right now.
Well, they have to step back and take
but I really
look.
realized that when I heard that little saying, that just resonated with me. I thought, wow,
I have, my therapist has two things I want to share here because I just love them. On that note, sometimes if you are a people pleaser, yes, when you stop
pleasing,
yes. Constantly putting another person first, they can be upset with you, but that's also, so what he taught me to do is when somebody was upset with me, to recognize that as validation that I was actually growing and getting healthier. Yeah. So that was one thing. And then the other thing he shared with me, again, as it's somebody that tends to give too much, is that resentment is your body's natural way of saying that you've given more than you can afford to give. So really pay attention to resentment.
So true.
To not just suppress it and blame yourself or feel guilty for resentment. Just hear it as a little alarm system going, you are giving more than you can afford to give. So step back and refill that well of
which is so important.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
had a life coach on here not too long ago. One of the things he said after he got to know me, one of the things he said to me is, "I'm going to teach you and put you on the no diet." And I said, the no, K-N-O-W, no N-O diet, you know, which is the way, because he's in fear that I have always ignored myself over all, you know, I mostly deal with situations and issues within my family and survival, and that but I'm a pleaser. I want to please everybody. So I say yes to everything. I volunteer for everything that I can. And then I spread myself out too thin. And
Exactly.
then those things start to, you know, if you are not your best self, you are not your best for the things that you need to be your best for when it comes to the people you love and anybody.
Yeah.
So we have to be our best selves.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we need somebody to look in from the outside and slow us down.
And say,
you know?
yeah, well, boy, you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
You better just not take on any more.
Right.
And I had someone say that to me.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, no, I don't. What do you mean? It's not that. This isn't so hard.
Yeah.
She goes, are you kidding me?
So
This
name
is
some
hard.
other things that you said that you can do to really feed yourself. I
Yes.
think massage is an
think this is
excellent one.
important.
I mean,
I'm doing Pilates now. I'm doing
Exercise. Eating well.
I'm doing some things on my own. I mean, there's certain travel things. I went with a friend to New York, and we
Wonderful.
just had.
Yeah.
Oh, we were like
Yeah.
two
You're
little
just
girls
there.
laughing,
Yeah.
and
How fun.
oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I'm saying no
Yeah.
to things, and
You're on the no diet
No
too.
diet.
and I am, and what I've
put herself on
what
it.
I've noticed, you can say no, and people are not happy about it.
Yeah.
But what happens is that the person that needs assistance will find other people
Absolutely.
that, you know, that will take them under their wing.
Yes.
And then and now I see that these people that I'm referring to, that I just can't
Yeah.
do it anymore.
No.
That they have other people have taken her under their wing.
Absolutely. It's so
yes.
true. I mean, we tend to sort of get caught up in that. You know, if I don't help them, nobody else will. But
Right.
that's so
And then
wrong.
they
There are
expect you
other
to.
people.
It's so
Yeah,
true.
there are other people that if
Yes.
you can pull back a little, other people, it gives the other person opportunity
To step up.
To step up, and it also. Nobody wants to be fully dependent on another human being. I mean, so if you can spread it out a bit, and there are other people that can step in and help, it's healthier for everyone all the way around. So we are getting to the end here. So we
Okay.
want you to share your website and where they can buy this beautiful, incredible booklet that
My
will.
booklet.
Yes.
Well, just because it's
really
intentional.
it's a guide.
It's an intentional
It's a
guide.
guide.
Exactly.
Yes.
There's some great wisdom in here also,
Thank
not
you.
just
All
the
right.
tips.
Well,
So
it's healingandharmony.info,
book.
and it's on my website.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right.
Thank
That's
you
one-
so
there's
much.
then
other
you can
things
buy
on
it
the web-
directly on the website.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazon.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I need a
Fabulous.
couple of copies of this to take back to Wales with me
Yes.
for my
I think
family.
it's
Thank you.
So necessary.
Yeah.
Claire,
Thank you.
this is, I mean, we can go on for a very long time
Yes.
about how to be a caregiver and how to, you know, really heal somebody
Yeah.
in the right way compared to the wrong way. And
Yeah.
you have
It goes
just so
against our
succinctly-
grain to sort of put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, but it's such
Yeah,
an
but
important.
it's so important.
true.
And
to
I'm
do
glad
that.
that you've turned. I've known you a long time, and I know what you've been through and what you're going through with other family members. And you know, I applaud you. And at the same time, I believe what you're doing now is the best for everybody, including yourself.
Thank
and
you.
that's a big
Thank
thing.
you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for
sharing
joining
your
us
story.
today. Thank you, everybody. Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, and Soul. We'll be back next week at 2
Yes,
p.m.
thank
See you
you
right
so
here on LA
much.
Talk Live. Bye.
Bye-bye.